here. So welcome. The first thing on our agenda today is election of officers. And I don't know really how this typically is done. We need to re-elect a chair, a vice chair, which we haven't had since Rick was left the council in Lewiston. And we just, in the fall or sometime, elected Amy as secretary. So I would assume that might be still good for the year.
Yeah, I had added this on the agenda. The meeting rules that Mary Ann Brenchek had worked on and that we looked through and adopted listed an election of officers on an annual basis. It didn't specify what time of year, but I thought our first regular meeting of the year might be a good time to do that. Maybe Heather, you have some insight on past practice of election of officers. Because
I nominate Camille as chair. That's how it works. It's real simple.
I second that.
All right, any discussion?
Any other nominations?
Any other nominations? All right, well, I'll hide my eyes. And
All in favor?
all those in favor?
Congratulations.
All those against?
Congratulations.
Okay, thank you.
So
Did you abstain, Camilla?
Huh?
Did you abstain?
I abstain.
Okay.
Should we reappoint Amy as just for another year?
Yeah, for secretary,
So I'll nominate Amy Landry for secretary. She's not here, so
and I'll second that. Any other nominations? Those in favor of Amy as secretary? All opposed? That's unanimous.
I'll nominate Tracy as the treasurer.
All right.
Second?
Second by Glenn. Any other nominations? All those in favor? All those opposed? Unanimous. And now vice chair. Does someone want to nominate someone or self-nominate as vice chair of the committee?
Who's not here?
Well, we already did Amy, so she can't do her again. So.
Kevin's pretty experienced. I'm not just trying
Glenn's
to.
gonna be back from
I
Buckfield.
said Kevin's pretty experienced here. You
Nominate Glenn Holmes for vice chair.
I'll second that.
Yeah. You spoke at the wrong time. I'm looking towards my left.
Any other nominations? All those in favor? All those opposed?
I'll abstain.
You can decline the nomination if you
Oh,
wish.
it's fine.
Okay. So Glenn was,
You're always here, so I'm fine.
you'll just cut copies of things I send out.
Oh, okay.
Just now. Yay.
Just moving on.
Okay, thank you for that. Minutes of the regular meeting. First, the November 8th, 2023 meeting minutes. We need those approved. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Any discussion on the minutes? All those in favor for approval? Those opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. Meeting minutes for our special meeting on January 10th, 2024.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion on those minutes? All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Mike, for the minutes. Now, on our agenda is a public comment. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak?
I have a couple of thoughts.
Okay.
First, I realize you just adopted the minutes of approved the minutes of the January 10th meeting, but there are a couple of things in there that need to be supplemented. First, the title of the minutes at the very beginning says Wednesday, January 2024, without the insertion of the number 10. The date of January 10 needs to be there. Secondly, when it identifies the commissioners present, it identifies 8 people, not including Commissioner Holmes, but then further down on the first page of the minutes, the very first vote was on a motion by Commissioner Holmes. I do remember Commissioner Holmes being here and certainly think that his name ought to be added to the identification of those present. And there are several votes that were done unanimously by, as reported, 8-0 votes. But with Mr. Holmes' presence being noted, there would be 9 commissioners present, and I think all of those votes ought to be 9-0.
I got voted against everything I did, didn't I?
And that's my comment on those minutes, which just need to be shaped up a little bit. The other item that I would like to comment on is under item number 7 under new business regarding appointments to the Auburn Subcommittee on Ordinance Revisions. This is really a City of Auburn public opportunity for comment by people other than those who are simply City of Auburn staff people or stakeholders such as the Agriculture and Resource Protection Group or the Protect Lake Auburn Group, but with this invitation being extended to the Watershed Protection Commission because the City of Lewiston is a 50% payor of Watershed Protection Commission matters, and the town of Turner has a very significant interest as well as the further upstream towns. It would be a really good idea to have active participation in this working group. The purpose of this group is to do some fine tuning on an ordinance that was not well put together. It's got too much in it. It's going to be segregated out and broken into some separate parts, I believe, administratively, but also some things got put in there that immediately after passage, a number of people recognized was not quite what was intended. So this is a working group to try to correct some of those things. I don't think it'll be controversial, but it would deserve input from this wider group.
Any other comments?
That's all.
Okay, thank you for your comments and corrections on the minutes. All right, next on our agenda is the water quality and watershed. A report by our...
Excuse me. I'm just going to go over the report that I included in the agenda. So the lake is frozen over. Ice on was on January 19th. We're still frozen over as of today. Cold weather, which is good. Hopefully we'll have a longer ice on period this year than we did last year. Last year was very short. It was late to freeze and early to thaw. Our turbidity, as of today, when I looked at it, the average is a 0.5 NTU in the lake, so that's normal for this time of year. That's good. That's what we usually see with ice coverage. There are temperature and turbidity graphs attached for your reference. To follow up on the Wilson Bluffs erosion issue that was brought to our attention by Alan last year, we worked with Fortin Construction, who still oversees the subdivision. This is in Turner. It's right above Little Wilson Pond. The subdivision's here, and it's a steep slope down to Little Wilson Pond. Most of those houses were built 10 to 15 years ago. There's 2 lots that are still being built out with homes. They're in the process of being built now. But last year, there's a phosphorus detention pond below the subdivision that's supposed to capture all the runoff from that subdivision and hopefully treat it before the water comes out and drains down to Little Wilson Pond. So last year, with all those massive rain events that we had, that pond wasn't functioning properly. It was blowing out underneath the pond instead of coming out the culvert where it was supposed to. So it was failing, and it caused pretty significant erosion down the steep slope right towards Little Wilson. So we reached out to the subdivision to see if they had a homeowners association. They had not formed that yet, so that responsibility fell back on Fortin Construction, which had originally developed that area. So Mike and I worked with Fortin. They went out, they remediated the pond, they cleaned it out, they took out some of the debris that was in there, they fixed some of the overgrown vegetation. Excuse me. And so they made the repairs to that pond. but we really need to look at it in the springtime or after a storm event to make sure that it is functioning properly. So I just wanted to let you guys know that's the follow-up on that. There was a lot of back and forth of actually trying to get it scheduled, and they were supposed to let us know when they were doing the work. They didn't let us know that they were doing the work, so finally when I reached out, they said, oh yeah, we've done that, and it was in mid-January, and we didn't know. But anyways, work has been done out there. We're going to keep an eye on it, and there was an agreement between the commission and Fortin Construction, or the soon-to-be-formed Homeowners Association, that we will be inspecting that pond and some of the other stormwater features in that subdivision on an annual basis. So I have that on the calendar to do in April of this year to go take a look at it. I'll probably have Kevin or Mike come with me too, so we can take a look, document it. Yes, and Alan too. Excuse me. The next item on here, the follow-up for the phosphorus assessment. So the commission had contracted with Ken Wagner, who owns Water Resource Services, and he had worked with the subconsultant Ecological Instincts. It's Jennifer Jesperson who owns that, to look into phosphorus reduction into Lake Auburn. So that's looking at our watershed management plan, that's looking at all of our water quality data, all of our phosphorus data, doing some modeling, doing some on-site further inspections too. That's what Ecological Instincts did for us. And so in this packet I included, there were two write-ups from each company. Basically the gist of these are that we would get a lot of benefit from dredging the basin and adding a phosphorus inactivation station in the watershed. And another piece of that is we can look at doing some work in the Mud Pond, Townsend Brook, and the basin for phosphorus reduction. There's a couple different approaches. You can tackle it by water body, or you can tackle it by problem sites or problem roads. Like Spring Road has a lot of sites that could be remediated, and we would get a reduction in phosphorus, and so does Lakeshore Drive, and those are immediate to the lake. Or you can tackle it by looking at the different water bodies and how best to either treat those or work in the watersheds directly around those water bodies. So there's a couple different options that we have for trying to get the most bang for the buck with phosphorus reduction coming into Lake Auburn. So these are kind of an overview of the work that was done and the recommendations from those consultants. And staff, we actually have a meeting with them tomorrow. So myself, Mike, Kevin, and Chris Curtis, our plant manager, we're going to be meeting with Ken Wagner and Jennifer Jesperson to talk about what our options are, what makes sense to tackle first, because there's a couple different approaches to it. So we just need to talk that out and figure out, okay, which of these do we want to tackle first, and why does it make sense to do that? And obviously talk about funding that, grant opportunities, that kind of thing. So this should be wrapped up. This project should be wrapped up soon. We'll have more information for you at our next meeting, and hopefully a plan of attack. So I just wanted to include these. It's the most recent update on that project that the commission is funding, and we'll touch base with that group tomorrow. And if I'll send out an update before our next meeting, just to keep everybody in the loop. Yeah, and my last thing on here is we've had some ice skaters on Lake Auburn in the closed zone of the lake, coming right by the treatment plant and intake. So we've been working with Auburn Police Department to address that. But just as this is a public meeting, public forum, if we can spread that word that there is no ice skating permitted on the closed half of the lake, definitely not in front of the treatment plant, definitely not out in front of the intake. Just getting that message out there would be
Do they come
appreciated.
from the community college?
They came from the boat launch.
The boat launch?
Yeah.
And they were chiseling a hole beside the buoy at the intake.
Just cause?
So they could drink?
I assume they're checking ice thickness, but
Oh.
just unaware of where they're at, but they're out there just,
Yeah.
it's like,
Hey! So definitely a safety concern too. So just wanted to share that. I think that's it for my watershed and water quality report. Let me just double check my notes. Yes.
One thing I'd like to ask is, I noticed that in Jennifer's report,
Yep.
she referenced some locations that I think were in the Watershed report,
Yep.
but there's no figure in her report, so we can't see where those are. It's on page 3 at the very top. You'll see severe, and then the second line, she has UB5, UB10, top of page 3.
Only 6 sites had at least one Banker Gully that ranked severe, the
Yeah,
UB5.
and- Yeah, and we can't see where those are.
Okay.
There's no map. So if she could provide just that map in her report with those locations,
Yep.
that would be helpful.
Thank you. I will share that with her.
Thank you. Great. Well, thank you. We'll look forward to reporting on the meeting and in our next when we meet again.
Yep.
Thank you. Other comments on water quality? Mike?
The only thing that I'll bring up, Mr. Beal, during open session, brought up some edits needed to the minutes. I know the vote that was taken approved the minutes as they were presented. Do you want to make an amendment to your vote to accept those changes?
Yeah. Is there a motion to amend the minutes according to public comment?
So moved.
A second.
Second? Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed?
Thank you. The only other thing I'll bring up, I didn't see on here the water quality ad hoc group, but we did have a meeting here recently. We met and discussed the last commission meeting. They charged this group with looking at septic inspections and building out what a cost mechanism for those would be. It was a very productive meeting. We don't have a resolution at this time, but we already have another meeting scheduled. So we'll be meeting again soon.
Okay.
So I'll keep you updated. But we discussed septic inspections, and then we discussed ordinance in upper watershed towns and approaches, and but no resolutions or documents to push forward at this time.
Thank you. All right, old business. The 2024 budget, is that Erica, Tracy, and Heather?
Turn it over to Tracy.
Erica, did you have anything on staff reports?
Excuse me.
Jumped over? No?
I don't, I just actually, did we want to mention that Auburn Waters powers in the upper watershed is under legal review?
Yeah, again, that's a good point. So the water quality group we talked about, how do we approach the upper watershed towns with these ordinance changes that have been adopted in Auburn. We've talked about it here at this commission many times. What legal authority does the water district have? Some have thought that we could create ordinances that would, in effect, cover the entire watershed. The water district is currently working with their legal counsel to determine that, and we're going to be discussing that at our next trustee meeting. So I suspect after that we will, move forward with any information that may come from that. But just to be aware, we're looking into that. So.
And I didn't have anything else for staff report.
Okay. So we went and met, the three of us, and went over the budget. We decreased a couple lines, small amounts for the executive administrator, the forestry. The largest reduction was in the public education. We reduced that $37,085. We removed the capital at $115, which brought down the fund balance carry forward $123,406 down to $57,000 that we plan to use. We removed the sale of timber of $2,000 since we are not planning on any of that being done. So that reduced the budget down. So where we're looking at right now, the auditors are starting to wrap up the audit. So I should know what we end up with soon. They had a couple questions on fixed assets. I sent them the email. I know she's currently working on a different audit, so I have not heard back from her to see where they're at, but they're wrapping that up soon.
And so, like Tracy said, Heather and I, Tracy, Matt, went over this, looked at where we could bring the cost down, and so this is down to a 0% increase over 2023, which is what was approved to be funded by the Auburn Water District, half of this budget. So that's where they were looking to be. I would just be looking for approval of this updated budget for 2024 by the board.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion?
Think so, that'd work?
I think before we have the next, budget, it would be good to have some insight from Lewiston and Auburn Water District regarding cost of living increases for, inflation and things, if we're gonna hire people. If we continue with the 0% increase, it doesn't reflect necessarily what's happening in the economy. So that would be helpful for, as far as I'm concerned. But any other discussion?
I'm sorry.
I was just gonna ask Heather if there's anything she can comment on the recent discussions on cost apportionment going on through the city council.
We had a meeting. We kind of did some homework assignments and then we're going to reconvene. What I was going to add is on the 5-year trend, we'll need to update that graph to reflect the changing of the 2024 budget,
Right.
add 2029 and drop 14.
Congratulations, Chairman
Are you ready to run the
It's not a
meeting?
good time. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other we're on the budget, Amy, just keep you up to date. Thank you. Any other discussion on the budget? Okay, have a vote. All those in favor of passing the 2024 budget? Those opposed? Any abstentions? A unanimous approval. Thanks for the work on all those that have made some changes and the time into that. Next on our agenda, as I'm scrolling back, is the Education Outreach Coordinator job description. Here it is.
So I included that in the packet just for your review. This is the job description we had for when Dylan was hired. It is workable and changeable based on what we find our needs are. I know there's been some talk about in the ad hoc committee, the water quality ad hoc committee with the septics, how do we, commission, the city, whomever, want to go about having septic inspections conducted. Would that be something that might be part of this position? So that's an option to add that in. Mike, Kevin, and I need to meet to go through this, and before we hire somebody else for this position, really figure out, okay, are there other things that from the Lewiston Auburn, from the Lewiston water and the Auburn water side that might feed into this as well. So we really have to figure out what's the best form for this position. Obviously, we want the education outreach pieces. We want to do the events. We want to be reaching out into the community. I think that's really important. We work with schools. We work with different businesses locally. I think reaching up into the upper watershed towns too, we could definitely do more of that. So there's room to adjust this. This really just is included in here so you guys know how we have advertised for it in the past. And I think once we know more about the septic inspections to come, if that can be a part of this, that might be an opportunity to have it be a full-time position too. And I know with the budget this year, there's not enough funding for it to be a full-time position. So right now, if we were to hire tomorrow, it would be part-time for the time being. So again, we'll work internally, with staff to see how we want to do this. But it's in there for your reference. And of course, if you have comments or suggestions, please send them to me. Happy to incorporate or adjust this as needed.
Is it possible to not just solely include septic inspections, but also looking at some of the recommendations in the watershed plan?
Mm-hmm.
That there might be some things in there that your additional personnel could assist with, like talking to people at Roy's or looking at, additional things that I noticed in there that might be, or they could have gone up to the pond, the pond to do that, things that you might not have the capability of doing, but this person would be able to provide that manpower, woman power, and to be out and addressing some specific areas of concern that have been, shown. So that just pops into my mind. If we can focus as well, not just on general education, but also specific areas that have been identified.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was just going to add, I know one thing we talked about in the ad hoc committee was trying to figure out the funding of the septic,
Yeah.
evaluations and looking at maybe possible grants.
Yeah.
Because again, if you can get some grant money to do some of those inspections, then certainly you'd probably have less resistance from people that have septic systems within the area that we need to monitor.
Course.
So that's one thing we're trying to figure out is some possible grants that we might be able to apply for that we could use for that specific purpose of doing the septic inspections.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Is there, grant funding available that could be added to round this position out too?
It may be helpful to do a lot of helps facilitate phrases. Helps facilitate grant applications, helps facilitate the implementation of the various municipal ordinances as it relates to the water, all that happy stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So if anyone has any other ideas that come up, feel free to, as Erica said, just email her on that. All right. So next on our agenda is moving into an executive session. So we'll need a motion to do that regarding negotiations of contract actions.
So moved.
I'll second. Second by Alan. All those in favor? Unanimous. So we need a.
You're going to declare it out of executive session?
Declaring us out of executive session.
4:16.
4:16. So based on our executive session, are there any motions?
I make a motion to direct staff to work with the developer based on the guidance given in executive session to move forward to the next step.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed?
Thank you.
So we've given you, yep.
Yep.
Great. New business. So I put this on the agenda. There is this, I think everyone's aware, there's this, as public, Steve Beal from the public mentioned, a subcommittee formed, and LawPac has been asked to have representative on that to look at the ordinance language by the end of April for any revisions that need to be made. That was ordered by the Auburn City Council. I mentioned that I was interested in that, and Erica and I have been initially appointed to that committee, but I'm bringing that up to LawPac for discussion or confirmations or other nominations to that subcommittee at this time.
I affirm those two appointments.
Second that. Any discussion?
I do, so is this a committee of the city?
It consists of, Auburn
It's called the Lake Auburn Stakeholders Group,
Yeah.
and they invited the Auburn Water District and the Lake Auburn Watershed Protection Commission to have members.
And I think there's maybe someone from a couple of other working
Yes.
groups in Auburn on that.
Yes. There's
I can help a
sustainability.
little bit, I think.
Yeah.
It's being hosted by the planning staff.
Yes, correct.
And there'll be probably 2, maybe 3 meetings.
Yes.
But because of the way that a whole bunch of ordinances got pushed into one, it was recognized as soon as the ordinance passed in December that it immediately was in need of some correction, just to change some things that were obviously not what was intended. And so that's the purpose of this. This is for all matter that is entirely within the watershed.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And there was a public meeting recently, Dan was present, I was there, Erica and Mike were also there. So they've started having some larger public meetings regarding that.
And I was told last night that the staff is going to try to schedule the first of the actual working group meetings in the next very short period of time.
Okay, thank you. So,
Could you let us know when those meeting dates are when you're told, Camille? So if someone wants to attend, we can attend. Thank you.
yeah, I don't know if they're open to the public or not. I can find out.
Oh, they
The general idea is open.
Yeah.
I think so.
They'll be
Yeah.
open in public.
Yeah, I don't know anything, about it, but yes. So I'll just send out a general
Yeah.
email.
Yeah, as soon as you know, let us
Can,
know.
Yeah, when they are, so. Okay,
All those.
All those in favor?
all those in favor?
One abstention. Camille,
I'm abstaining. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Next, our LawPac member term renewals. And I believe from what is on the agenda that Erica indicated that Alan is up.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, I have an update, so I.
Oh, you have an update?
Yeah, I heard back from the town manager and Turner today, they're having I'm on the agenda for the selectmen meeting next Tuesday, the 20th,
Okay.
which I'll be attending.
Okay.
So we should have news soon on whether I'm being appointed again, or.
Okay.
I'll pass that on.
Yeah,
It's,
Highly likely.
it's a- Not beating down the door.
I don't think so. I don't think anybody is.
Thank you, Ellen.
I'll communicate whenever if I hear something, I'll
Okay.
Neil and Eric.
You can just let us all know what you find out.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then Glenn sent out a letter to the towns of Hebron, Minot, and Buckfield, and copied me and others today, seeking reappointment for his year term. Yep.
I'll be actively seeking somebody else to take it.
All right. Is there any other business?
Just to bring Amy up to date on the, probably the officers.
Your secretary.
I
Again,
know that was last meeting.
well, yeah, but this was like annual
And Glenn is
elections.
now the vice chair.
Vice chairman,
Where's vice chair?
Oh,
We
okay.
have a
Chairman.
Vice chair.
treasurer.
I abstain.
One thing I want to bring up, maybe for our next meeting, is our legal representation. We have been, as Mike has been frustrated, we have not been able to.
Reached out twice, and both times they're conflicted out.
Exactly.
And then there's other stuff I've been waiting on, and I've Auburn, since the litigation, has started working with different legal counsel because Skelton, Taylor, and Abbott was conflicted out. So now because we've been working with them for over a year now, I'm just working with Eaton Peabody just more and more through the district. So we're not using Skelton, Tabor, and Abbott as much. So I don't know, from the commission standpoint, we really ought to have representation would never put us in a conflict with the two cities or.
Exactly. Right, so I think we need to maybe discuss that to figure out what to do. Because Amanda Meter was still on some document, and then she said, no, I'm no longer representing LawPac, so they sent it to Mike and me, and I had to agree to something, just a holdover. And so it would be good if we had some legal counsel, not that it's urgent at the
Like I
moment.
say, if you could just figure out a couple of firms that would
Okay.
make sense.
I think he tried to do that.
I did, and then I called both of them, and none of them returned my call. So Skelton Taylor offered a couple of names, like, I'll reach out to these two folks, and I called, and I never got return calls.
Is it more municipal government looking for, or is it water specific, or
I would think municipal.
municipal government?
Yeah.
I don't know. I know a law firm that might be available soon.
I'll work with Erica and Kevin, and maybe we can draft a letter to Skelton Taylor and ask them, are they going to be able to continue to represent us? And if they can't, please advise us on who to use, because that's how we found Amy Meter,
Right,
was
Jim.
through their recommendations.
Yeah.
So maybe that'll get them to,
Okay. That's all I had for other business.
Could I
Yeah.
just, we left Skelton Taylor so that we would not have a conflict in our discussion. So please don't go to Norman, Hanson, and Troy.
Troy.
I'm not sure what the firm is, but please don't go to them.
You get the names.
Yeah.
No,
Is
they
it
won't go
looking
there.
like we're gonna have that March 13th meeting?
Do you think we're gonna need, is there a need for a special meeting in March?
I won't be available March 13th.
Well, I would look to see what staff's at that point. If they
Let us know in a week.
give us 2 weeks. By the 1st of March, one way or the other would be nice. And if not, we can do birthday parties.
I was gonna say, it would be hard for me to attend that meeting.
Yeah, and I would have,
I'll do it.
could maybe Zoom if I thought we could from the office.
Yeah.
No, you're on vacation. That's
Yeah.
good. All right, so.
And then if you do have a meeting, Mike would just have to coordinate for the room.
No, I'm fine either way. It's on my calendar, so it doesn't get bumped.
So you have two that won't possibly be here.
Yeah.
Just-
Well, why don't you leave it on your calendars? Erica or mine can let us know beginning of March whether it looks like it's urgent we have the meeting, otherwise we'll wait until our regular meeting, which is April 10th.
We can always be informed by email, we just can't deliberate pretty much, so.
That's right.
Right.
And if we ever needed to have like a Zoom meeting, could we, or like a meeting, oh, because we can't, because it has to be the public meeting.
Yeah, yeah.
So we can't have like a workshop.
Well, you can't.
Yeah, but it still has
you
can't-
can
can't do
have a
anything.
workshop, but it's going to be a public meeting.
Right. So, all right, if there's nothing else, is
I
there a
just
motion?
have
to-
one
Oh,
thing I
yes.
just
Oh,
want to
yeah.
mention real quick.
Yeah.
In the ad hoc committee, we talked about the idea of having like myself and like Erica and Mike actually having a meeting with with the town manager, or like the planning board and Turner, just to be able to sit down with them, communicate like things that we've been kind of focusing on, maybe answer questions of them. So I just want to figure out a way just to keep that momentum going, so at some point we schedule that. I think that'd be an important thing to do.
Yeah.
Just to make a plan to, reach out and try to set a date to make that happen.
That's great. Yep. Perfect.
Yeah, if you want to come to a planning board in Buckfield, let me know.
Yeah. For what, 1 square acre? What?
Be nice.
What is it?
It's like 5 acres.
Is it 5
I
acres?
think so.
Buckfield's 5 acres.
Little tiny spot.
Anything else? You move?
Oh, there we go. Second.
Adjourn, second. All those in favor?
Unanimous.
Thank you for coming, everyone.